Time now is 6:13. And let's talk about a big topic here on this Earth Week. Scientists say tiny pieces of plastic floating everywhere. They're in the air, the dirt, the water. Until recently, there really wasn't a way to know if they've made it into our bodies. In today's Earth 8 report, we're taking a look at what San Diego researchers are discovering about these microplastics.
I just have to dilute them and put them in tubes and count them.
In this tube, researcher Kara Wiggin shows us the microplastics that have turned the water a light orange.
So they're all just really tiny dots.
For the purpose of her research here at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at UC San Diego, she broke larger plastic pieces into these little fragments, since that's more similar to what's found in the real world.
And you can't see them at all.
But you can see them through the microscope. As she shines a blue light, they turn up green on her screen, and Wiggin counts them all.
I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm an amazing counter.
She was able to determine that each slide has about 1,500 microplastics, and that helps her know what she'll be putting into each of these.
So this is an oyster in here, and it's in sterile seawater right now, and eventually tomorrow I'll add microplastics and Vibrio perihemolyticus, the bacteria that causes food poisoning.
In this specific study, Wiggin is testing to find out if microplastics shuttle food poisoning into oysters.
Microplastics have been a really interesting field to watch over the last 15, 20 years because we've come a long way in terms of figuring out how to detect it.
In fact, the latest research shows microplastics have been discovered in our lungs and in our blood.
It's not that it wasn't there, it's just that the methods for detecting microplastics are pretty complex, pretty expensive, and time-consuming.
The newest form of testing has proven what scientists have long suspected.
Now we can use it to test, more parts of the body, our tissues, or, in our brains. Now we're able to definitively say that they stay in our body.
But many microplastic researchers still need to pinpoint how much we absorb, how much we release, and the harm they may cause.
In the past couple years, you've probably seen articles that state we ingest about a credit card's worth of plastic every single week. In this case, we'll use playing cards about the same size. Now think about that. Over a year, 52 cards worth of plastic going into our bodies. Wiggin explains a lot of that depends on how much plastic is in our daily life. If you drink from plastic water bottles regularly, if you eat from plastic bags and out of plastic containers often, and if you wear clothes made of polyester, spandex, nylon, yes, all those popular yoga pants, well, that's also sending microplastics into your body. And then think about all the plastic toys kids are constantly playing with. I mean, this motion alone, plastic hitting plastic, the friction, that sends microplastics into the air.
They're a little bit hard to avoid just because we've created such a mess. When you're sitting in your living room and there's a ray of light and you can see all the particles in the light, a lot of those are probably plastic.
That's because all the plastic we use gets broken down by friction or even melting and ends up in the air and in the ground. But it also ends up in the ocean where it breaks down more.
They end up being so small that they're lightweight and they can just float through air currents and wind.
It all goes into our food where it circles right back to us by either eating, breathing, or touching.
Everything from on land into the ocean comes back to humans, and it's just all a kind of a circular, interconnected world.
And as with most research, the more awareness and knowledge scientists like Wiggin can share, the more they hope people consider change.
So Wiggin does say that people often ask her, what in the world can we do about this? How do we clear microplastics from the earth, from our bodies? And she recommends, cutting back on plastic use in however way you can. Small ways can make a difference. She also suggests talking with local, state, national leaders to let them know that you're concerned about this. Surfrider, by the way, will be joining us on the CW San Diego in our 7 a.m. hour to show us some of the most common plastics that end up in the ocean. Just things that we can think about on how we can reduce a little bit.
That is a lot of plastic in the body.
It's everywhere.
That was shocking to me.
Especially you always see, like she said, when the light kind of hits the air and you see all the particles. And I always think oh, I'm sure it's just dust.
We thought it was dust, but now they're seeing, no, it's like microplastics too. We breathe it in.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
it's everywhere.
You had, in your stand-up, you had the kids' toys and everything. I mean, I'm surrounded by that in my house.
It's everywhere. I mean, look, everything we're typing on, the friction of just touching plastic
it really does add
sends
up.
it out. out.
And then it's all about those incremental changes,
Right,
like she
right.
said, just trying your best. This actually ties into my Earth Aid on Monday is the first zero waste grocery store in San Diego.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating to see, like, you bring in your own glass jars
Yeah.
and you fill up
We
your
don't
own
need
products. You don't need the
plastic.
plastics.
Yeah.
So there are ways to do it
Right.
that are pretty simple that we can make our day-to-day changes with.
Little
So
things do add up. Thank you for bringing that to us.
yeah,
course. I'm
that's a
glad we could.
fascinating story. She's also an amazing scientist
Right?
to be
Yeah.
doing all that.